There's a hook that the content creates. All of us understand that. But what is happening more and more is a sense of passive receptivity which we have got into. Because the illusion of consumption is that we are doing something. So consumption creates an illusion of action. And that is why we get hooked to it. So if I am really looking at something more than I should be, if my mind is telling me, okay, you should not be done, then I have to first ask the question, what in me is causing that consumption? And the second step then comes in, okay, can I regulate the consumption? But the first reflection to even begin that control or begin that monitoring is that what in me is causing that. And for me to reflect on what in me is causing that, I have to understand that, okay, what are my requirements? And to understand what are my requirements, I need to understand myself better.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to today's Yes Talk, titled The Art of Content Consumption. The speaker today is Miss Aditi Kaul. Aditi Kaul is a seeker on the path of integral yoga, offering courses and workshops rooted in the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Welcome, Aditi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Look forward to an interesting session with you. Over to you.
Namaste, everyone. Just interestingly, we are sharing about content consumption as a part of content consumption. So you'll be consuming what I'll be sharing. So that is the beauty of being a human being, that we have both the possibilities. We have the possibility to be the content and also consume the content. So right now I am the content and you are the consumer. And once probably when the session ends, I might end up seeing something and then I become the consumer and somebody else becomes the content. So that is the endless cycle all of us are into. That we are always receiving. That is what we are today. That from morning till we actually technically are unable to open our eyes, till that time we are consumed. And because consumption has become such an easy thing for us, because it's literally in our hands. But there are so many forums we have been to, we listen to, we read about these things, especially in today's age. There's so many people who are talking about the pros and cons of technology, the pros and cons of social media. So there's nothing new in the concept. All of us understand that, okay, this is a problem we are facing today. But the beauty is that we still feel that it is problem faced by the other. Like somewhere we give ourselves this message that I am able to manage. Or even if I'm not able to manage, I have a reason for it. So my consumption has a justification. And that justification requires our attention. That most of us, if we become aware of our own pattern. So content right now is not just about the online content. Right now, because we are so technology oriented that everything for us is online. Like for even if I want to remember something, I have outsourced that to a device that please remember this for me. And more so now the technology has come to a point like the little exploration I've made. You don't have to type also. You just tell, okay, please remind me this. A time will come that I will think, please remind me. And maybe that must be happening also. I might not be aware of it. So the outline of our life is essentially taking, taking, taking. And So, first is that we have to understand that taking is not a concern. Like, for example, when we are hungry, we eat. So, we can't say that eating is wrong or one should not eat. But usually, what advice we give people is that become aware of what you're eating. What time are you eating? What is the quantity of your eating? What is the quantity of your food? Who are you eating with? Like the more deeper we go in our exploration, we see that okay, who is so food is the easiest example to correlate with what we consume because all of us today are consuming as if we are consuming food, which is non-stop. And there's a dependency, like to be alive, we are dependent on food. To an extent, we are also dependent on the consumption. That's what we are right now. So just becoming aware that what are the ways through which I'm consuming? More about the quantity, am I aware of the quality? And there's a hook that the content creates. All of us understand that. But what is happening more and more is a sense of passive receptivity which we have got into. Because the illusion of consumption is that we are doing something. So consumption creates an illusion of action. And that is why we get hooked to it. Because in our nature, what do we like? We like movement. That is why when we see things, so when we are watching movie, there's a sense of movement. When we are traveling, there's a sense of movement. Our body likes to move. Our mind likes to wander. There's so much of emotional turbulence. Our sense of existence, our sense of purpose comes from movement. But now what we have done is we have outsourced the sense of movement to our thoughts. That if I'm seeing other people's life, other people moving, I am moving. So my sense of living has been outsourced to other people. And that is why in my mind, I know that it is wrong, it should not be done, it should be regulated. So it's not like today we are not talking about that, oh, this should be done or this should not be done. All of us know that. But the question comes in is that how do I bridge that gap that I know this should not be done, but still I'm doing it? Which means that I don't have to address the effects so much. So effect is my consumption. So ideally what my mind will do, oh, you should not do it. Like how we tell children, no, oh, don't go out, don't play, exam time, study. Usually what we do, we try to manipulate, govern and control the effect. And that is why we are never able to achieve the consistency or the result. Because effect is always a byproduct of a cause. So as long as we are not dealing with the cause, dealing with the effect is temporary. So if I am really looking at something more than I should be, if my mind is telling me, okay, you should not be done, then I have to first ask the question, what in me is causing that consumption? And the second step then comes in, okay, can I regulate the consumption? But the first reflection to even begin that control or begin that monitoring is that what in me is causing that. And for me to reflect on what in me is causing that, I have to understand that, okay, what are my requirements? And to understand what are my requirements, I need to understand myself better. So it's only by exploring my needs, my personality structure, my life circumstances, and a combination of all of these things that I will understand that, okay, why am I doing it? So there is definitely, so what we do is, okay, don't go online that much. But essentially, I'm going somewhere. So, for example, if I'm at home, I don't have much to do. I don't like whatever I'm experiencing at home. Forget the age, like I'm talking about an age where we didn't have that idea of content consumption. What we do, we walk out. We feel that, okay, if I'll step out of the house, maybe I'll go meet friends, I will take a stroll in the park, I will watch something also. If I am living in a beach town, I'll just sit by the beach. So, what is the core need that I'm addressing? Change. That where I am present in the current context, I want to shift from that current context to another context. And that will give me some peace of mind, maybe some change, which will help me bring that peace if I'm very angry, upset, any emotions. So, change is what we require. But in that change, my entire being is occupied. So, I have to step out. There has to be action on the body. My life, I have to make that effort to move, to actually step out of the house, use a vehicle or whatever, and go out. And then my circumstance will change, which means that action is required from my end. Today, to change, the easiest thing is to pick up the phone and you immediately get transferred into another world. And you can visit anything and everything across the world, maybe beyond the world, through just that little piece. Because everybody's talking about everything online. So there is so much of variety in the content. So earlier when I wanted a shift, because there was some work that needed to be done, I had to make that effort. Now there is no effort. So what I'm doing, I'm creating an illusion of change, but my state of mind remains the same. Even so, if we observe ourselves, it gets worse after consumption. It's like same example, like people who are getting into addiction or people like, for example, alcohol. When they drink it, they might feel something is very nice, the world is nice, all of those things. But the after effect is not that nice, or the longer effect is not that nice. So it's the same thing with our own consumption because what happens is what could be a change that could have added to my personality, to my experience, now has become a competition, a comparison. Because now, when I'm shifting from my current state, I'm entering into a state that's not mine. And in my head, because I'm wanting that change, I'm like, I don't have what I'm looking at. So, overstimulation happens. Essentially, when I'm worried or when I'm upset or when I'm too tired, ideal way is rest. That if I'm overstimulated, I'm overworked up, I have to rest. Now, what I'm doing is changing the stimulus, changing the environment. I'm exerting myself. So, distraction at first level, it might look like, oh, I'm relaxing. But how can I relax when my senses are at work? What is the fundamental principle of relaxation? That my senses are at rest. But in the entire day, when are our senses at rest? In fact, they're overworking. So they are working for whatever is required for us to exist. And then they are working for us for the mind, like they're at the service of the mind that, okay, you want to say, look at the world, you want to look at the recipes, you will travel the world, you want to see what other people are doing. So it's endless. So there is so much of overstimulation that even then after that, when you go to rest, the mind is still active because we know that before sleep we need to relax. That's a fundamental principle. Even mother has spoken about it, right? That before sleeping you need to relax and then sleep. So with overstimulation when I sleep, then in my mind also like my dream, my sleep is so then when I wake up, then I'm not fresh. And then immediately then I put my phone as if the world was waiting for when will I wake up. So then I will look at, oh, have how many good morning messages do I have? How many good morning messages I have to send? Because I have to tell the world that I'm awake. The world should know. And I should know what I missed for those 6, 7 hours. So essentially, what is happening is that I'm never disconnected, which is like, it feels like normal. Of course, we all of us do this. But now imagine if, like I was correlating it with food earlier, imagine you keep on eating, you keep on eating, you keep on eating. Even the sound of it is like silly. Is it not possible? We eat, then we give rest for the digestion to happen. And then when we feel hungry, we eat. And there's a whole process of elimination. So there's a cycle. When you receive, you process. Things which need to become a part of you become a part of you. Things which are not required are pushed out of your system. That is a consumption process that keeps us alive. That's a fundamental natural process. Now, what we are doing in our through our senses, we are consuming, we are not processing, we are storing, storing, and there is no elimination. And that is why it doesn't, because if the body stores the fat, it shows on the body, no? But when the mind stores, it's not shown because it's an intangible thing. So where is it shown? It's shown in emotional disturbances. It's shown in our interaction with the world. It is shown in the weakness which we experience in our body. And that is why when today's psychologists are working so much that they are calling this generation the anxious generation. Today, if you look at, there's so much of mental problems that have come up. People are feeling anxious, stressed, triggered all the time because their senses are always at work. So if so, there is no rest time. So one important element to include is that yes, I can consume data, I can consume whatever I have, but can I become aware of that what I'm consuming? Can I also give time to process it? How many of you will actually have things stored in your devices which you want to refer to later? That every recipe you see, or every, say, if somebody's interested in style, every new style you see, every fashion trend, or places to visit, you pin those posts, and you're like, okay, what can I know more? What can I know more? So, if we understand the composition of our personality, we know that the desire to know more is the need of the vital. Mind is not so much interested in new information all the time. You give it, it will be like, okay. But vital is something which is never satisfied. So that is why all the targeting, if you see of the content that is given to you, is targeted at your vital. It is not targeted at your mind because it's the vital which feels that I am not enough, or I don't have enough, or I want more. And that is why if you see how the world is designed, it is designed on the lack culture. It's never designed, nobody ever in the world tells you that, oh, you are enough. Every campaign is designed to tell you that you are not enough, you don't have enough. So you want more. So and that is why I just closely observe, even when you see things, you see the color of it. That if you like something, it's red. You observe the sound of it, the sound of the notification. It's like, oh, somebody needs me, or somebody remembered me. Or when I send something to somebody, if they say, if I'm sending it on WhatsApp and the blue tick is on, have they seen it? They know that I have sent it. So at every step, all the online behavior is essentially pointing out to my offline need of to be seen, to be heard. So rather than focusing on that, yes, of course, we have to channelize, we have to regulate our online behavior. But to regulate our online behavior, first we have to understand what is my offline behavior, who I am as an individual. What do essentially I choose? What is my mechanism of resting? What is my mechanism of processing? You remember earlier when used to, like today, essentially all of us experience the concept of boredom. But earlier, we used to really understand the concept of boredom as a time to process things. Like boredom is an art. You have to learn to be bored. What this essentially means is that your senses have no stimulation. There is no feeding to your senses. Then what do you do? But right now, we can't sit idle for 1 minute. And how do we justify? We justify by saying that, no, it's important to be part of the world, to be updated. Like, for example, just observe news. Everybody wants to know what is happening in the world. Now, can you consciously choose the source of your news? Are you consuming the opinions of people on WhatsApp and Insta on Facebook? Or are you consuming the authentic news from the authentic channel? That is what can be changed. So, yes, you want to know about the world, you want to know what is happening, yes. But what mechanism, what source are you using? So, which means, are you looking for a entertainment or you're looking for authenticity in news? Are you more opinion because opinion is entertainment? Because then you also know this is right, that is wrong. So, what is your source of receiving? That is very important. And second, when you are receiving, at what point have you trained yourself to stop? So, if you are receiving information, receive it through the mind and become aware that your vital is not hooking onto it. So, I want more, I want more. Like so many people have this complaint that I saw the time, I didn't realize I was scrolling, it's 1 hour past. I didn't realize when the last 1 hour went. And then the next half an hour goes in thinking about that 1 hour which I wasted. So essentially 1.5 hours gone. So this is the loop that we get into. So have I learned the art of content consumption? Yes. But what is included in it? That am I okay with sitting by myself? Or I feel I'm such an important person that if I will not participate in the world will end. That nothing is functional. And can I use those times to process what I have received? So I might say spend 4 5 hours on online. But then again, can I take 1 hour to process what I have seen? And also one important thing to modify is periodic cleaning. Like there's so much of data which we consume, we consume, we consume. Can I just do like a stock check that what is it what I don't need anymore? Can I let go it? Like how difficult it is for us to delete things from our phone, or how often do we do it? We always feel that no, somewhere it will be helpful, somewhere we will use it. So aligning myself with the usage of time, becoming aware of the source through which I'm receiving the content, giving myself that processing time, and truly choosing that what really nourishes me. That am I, if you're aware of your system, like those like with that very fundamental integral framework, we talk about the mind, the vital, and the body. Every time something comes on your screen, or you read something, or you look at anything, just see that what part of your being is receiving it. That is it a movement that is very lower in your nature that is adding to your desire? Is there what you're receiving which is making you more feel a sense of power? Is something you're receiving, some videos we see about, like, say, nature, or about, say, loving relationship, or about, say, pets. There's a sense of warmth that we feel in our heart. There's a sense of expansion. Or there's some very like science videos we are seeing, or things about the universe. So observe that when you are consuming something, what part of your system is receiving it? And recognize the capacity and the strength of that part and work accordingly. Too much stimulation of the mind will be a problem. Too much stimulation here will be a problem. Anything too much is a problem. So design a method for you where all the parts of your being feel nourished, but not overstimulated. So focus on the sense of quantity, limit it, and focus more towards the quality of it. And also understand the purpose for which you are engaging. Is distraction your purpose, or learning your purpose? So, what is your intention? Most of us use the content for distraction, and that is why there is not much takeaway. Our mind is shut. We are just unconsciously doing things. So, is distraction my purpose? Because if distraction is my purpose, which means that something needs to be corrected in my life. Like when we say, no, why are people interested in other people's life? Because they don't love their life. So, is there something which needs to be shifted in my existence, in my experience? And if I'm learning, can I minimize and categorize and channelize the learning? If I have to, that is a tendency of the vital, and we assume it as a mind. For example, I have to see a recipe online. I'll see one channel, I'll see, okay. Then I'll see another channel. Then I'll see another channel. Then I'll keep seeing. In the end, I'm just confused at what to choose. Why? Because I'm like, okay, something more can happen, something more can happen. So how do I really categorize that? Really keeping this one thing in mind, that human beings are impressionable beings. We carry the impression of what we consume, because what we consume, we become. Another example, like I keep paralleling it with the food. I become the food what I eat, which means that I become the data, the content I consume. So if I'm feeling that I'm consuming a lot of irrelevant data and okay, no, but I'm smart, it will not affect me. That's not the case. It knowingly or unknowingly does affect. So I become that data. So imagine if I'm consuming so much and I'm becoming so much, and then I'm nothing. And that is why I'm always in a confused state. That I'm confused what to feel. So at one moment, I consumed something which was uplifting, which was like really in my heart space. Another level, something came on my screen which was so like mind, like, oh, what's happening in the world. Another second, I consumed something which was like about the body. So my entire system doesn't know where to go. So it's like how, for example, if we travel, if the weather changes, it takes time for our body to adjust. That, okay, I've come from an extremely cold weather, or I've come from an extremely hot weather. There's a transition period, and transition period helps us process. So conscious consumption is allowing yourself that transition period. Because if I'm not allowing that transition period, I'm carrying so much of the impressions which I don't need. So if there's one thing that is important is to just really treat it as okay, whatever is coming in my system, what impression is it leaving? What is the after effect? That can be like my core element. And I can really have that sense of, that okay, what is it doing? So what kind of content I'm consuming? That is a reflection for me. How do I immediately feel after consuming it? That is my reflection point. And what is my inner state while I'm consuming it? So, can I become aware of that? And if I'm really unconscious, if I'm really using it as a distraction, then what does it leave me with? So, one way of really organizing what you're receiving from the world is one is something that uplifts you, one is something that really drains you, and there's a lot more which is neutral in this in between. So every conscious engagement I'm making with the world, conscious contact I'm making with the world, in which category does it fit? And which category would I like to enhance? Like I was telling you that there are a lot of psychologists talking about it. So like one of the psychologists when he speaks about the anxious generations. So one thing it's like now everything like he speaks about that it was a play-based childhood, now it's a phone-based child, which is earlier, children were getting that space to become aware of who they are sensorily, physically, acknowledge, see all those things. Now everything is 5D experience, 3D experience. So there is stimulation, but there is no actual exchange, which might be the same. We can argue by saying that, okay, this is a part of evolution, this is growing, all of those things. But one thing which is very important for all of us, even adults, to understand that the speed with which nature is evolving is not in line with the speed which technology is evolving. And human body, human being is still a part of nature. And we are consciously evolving in alignment with nature. And that is what needs to be respected in every action which we do. And that is the reason that we have to really bring into that constant receptivity. My receptivity is not turning into rigidity. That I'm receiving. There's like, then there is no scope. And the moment I get hooked onto something, immediately, like how we have these protected airspaces. So if some foreign air enters into the airspace, there's an alert that there's a foreign plane spotted or whatever. Like those are the mechanisms, no? So our inner mechanism should be so active that anything that enters which is harmful for our body, there should be an alert. So it's not that, oh, I don't use or I don't consume the content, but at what point can I put the full stop? So exercising the will to stop is more important than not using it all. And constantly becoming aware of the quality of it. And one bottom line which comes in is that there is so much of repetition that we keep repeating because repetition gives us an illusion of newness because we don't have to do anything. We just have to continue, continue, continue. So all of these things that, okay, I know this, like my favorite topic is knowledge, the gap between knowledge and practice. So all of us know this, but we don't practice it because the link between knowledge and practice is the will. And the will comes through understanding. And understanding comes through aspiration. So strengthening that aspiration to change so that that change can percolate into my actions as well. And one very important thing to really bring in, no, is that pick up small tasks. Just like say after this session, our discussion, just pause for say 5 minutes and see that, okay, what was the last thing that I saw that left an impression in me? Sometimes, by just scrolling, we see an image that doesn't leave us. And maybe while sleeping, also, we think about it. So, what was the last thing that left an impression that was difficult for you to get away with? Or when was the last time you saw something which you really wanted to? So, it's not that, see, the thing is, when I was talking about the cause and effect thing, no? That we don't, if we can't control something, we reject that. So if I'm not able to manage my behavior, so the best way to justify my behavior is to say that, oh, how technology is ruining the life. But it is also saving life. So it's not about the technology. So it's not about the outer technology. It's about my mechanism. So my inner technology, how do I channelize it? How do I, like if inner technology is really the source, how is that impacting my rest? How is it impacting my food? How is it impacting my exercise? How is it impacting my exchange with the world? What am I receiving? What am I giving? Am I hiding behind the content which I'm consuming? Is there something in me which I don't like? That is why I seek it in others. What is the story that runs in my head that the content I consume feeds? So I may give myself a story that I want to know about the world, but secretly I don't want to be with myself. That is why I want to know about the world. So what's the secret behind my action? Decoding that secret would automatically align the need I have. So those are just few elements to really speak about that. Okay, how am I really, because everybody has 24 hours. How am I using those 24 hours in interacting with the world through what I'm receiving from the world? And what is the level of my sincerity? And so the easiest way to regulate your online behavior is to be non-judgmental towards yourself. That's the easiest way. Because the quality of the vital is that it creates more concerns so that you continue. So it gave you this one message that, oh, I can't. It's not easy for me, which means that, anyways, I can't, so I should do more. So that's the double thing which confuses us. That I keep telling myself, oh, it's difficult, it's difficult. And that difficulty is making me do it more and more and more. And that is why it's called a loop, because that is the quality of the vital. So these are just like, of course, it's not, again, I'm saying it's not something new information, but sometimes when we come to a forum like this and share, some things, if we try practicing, it really brings a change. That I learn to whatever comes. So the all of these things said and done, the core is whatever comes my way, can I infuse my awareness into it? So it becomes, palatable. It's like in the house, when there's a lot of leftover food. If you are a great cook or your mother is a great cook, anybody, they bring in all the leftover, do something and make it tasty. So even the leftover food can be tasty if you know the art of cooking. So if you really know the art of dealing with what is given to you, then you will not spend so much time on wondering about why the world is like that or why I am like that. You will spend more time in regulating depending on what your circumstances is. So these are the few thoughts which I wanted to share, and then I would also like to see what Ramesh Bhaiya have to say about in this age of technology, dealing with so many people on a regular basis. So you have some thoughts to share with us?
Thank you, Aditi. As usual, you have made so many points so effectively and in such an interesting way. The repeated comparison with the food which you made was very interesting. And this is so much in keeping with the ancient wisdom where ahar has been considered not just food, but also at least two more things: sensory impressions and the company that we keep, the people with whom we spend maximum time. All this is a part of ahar, something that we consume. And uh, in each one of these, the quantity as well as quality both matter. Now, the importance of sensory impressions has multiplied so much as a result of social media, and that's why this comparison is so apt. And as in case of food, we digestion is important, elimination is important, fasting is important, going on a simple diet like khichdi for a while is also important. So all these things have become so much important in relation to social media. So if in the meantime you have thought of something else, you can continue, and then again we can come in. And it's not that I'll be giving all the answers or useful things. Sometimes I'll be asking you questions, and then you can come up with the answers.
No, I feel the most important time is that while you are consuming, be in a joyful state. So what happens is that when we are sad, we are unconscious, and that is why we never stop. But when we are happy, we are connected, and then we are consuming, then we know when to stop. So it's also not the method, it's also the state of your being. So if I'm very happy, I'll just spend some time, I'll know about the world, I'll enjoy, and then I'll stop it. But if I'm not feeling nice, so it's a good observation to make that when I'm unhappy and I go online, and when I'm happy, I go online. What is the difference in my attitude? Because when I'm happy more so, there's a sense of contentment, at least temporarily, if so. So then I'm not in need of so much on the outside. But anyway, like today, we know that loneliness is an epidemic in that sense. And in the era where there is so much of availability, so there's some equation that is not fitting. Because the more it appears to that I have people around, the more it is like I'm not, because physically that's not a possibility. So I'm also confusing myself that there is so much of data about people, but there is no experience of people. So what do I do with that data? So that data is not aligning with the overall experience. And that mismatch is a result of that difference, and that it's causing disturbances in me. So, and of course, everybody knows it that online cannot be a substitute for real connections, but it's through online also we can have real connections. It's not that divided. Like for example, take this experience. Like we all are on a common platform. We are talking. It's not that it's like some distance. Oh, most of you I know, and even if I don't know, if we look at each other, there is a sense of connection. The world has gone online. But more so, it's my attitude of hiding behind the online consumption. That is a tricky point. That is a concerning point. There are so many people you will find who are very passive online. So they follow everything, they do everything, but you will not see them engaging. Because it's like, of course, I am not worthy to be a part of the world, so I will secretly observe the world. But that has its implications on me as a human being. So those things also need to become aware that even if I'm taking four things, so like I can make like a discipline that if I'm say reading about, say for example, if my interest is yoga or spirituality or health, if there are five posts I saw, at least I take a summary of what I saw and maybe write it a line and two. Make yourself accountable for the consumption. We usually don't make ourselves accountable. We store. So the moment I make accountable myself for the consumption, I will immediately, naturally align it and restrict it to my requirement, which will also then I will become aware of what is my requirement. So accountability of consumption is very important because otherwise there is no end. And we will observe that the moment I become accountable, I will restrict the time because then I know that okay, there's a like a after session requirement. So I've seen it. Now I have to know that how is it connected to my life. So if I'm going online, say I'm watching a video or say I'm attending a session, how is it impacting my life? So anything I do online, what is its implication on my life offline? Am I aware of that connection? And that connection will then also direct what is my next line of action online. So that is how I make a conscious chain of exchange and its expression in my life. So these are important factors to understand. Because otherwise, if it's like just, okay, I'm just sitting, I'm doing it, then there's no point in that sense. There is no requirement. And of course, we are human beings and we are unaware. We are living in ignorance, and other people are taking advantage of our ignorance. All of us like to be like, we have those jokes around, no, that, oh, there was a sign I read somewhere, but I don't remember the exact words. That somebody went online and they saw something. I was like, this is a sign that I really wanted. It's like, this is not a sign. This is people targeting you. So it's not that the universe is responding in a way that, oh, you really need it. It's like what we call in marketing, some segmentation or audience segmentation or something like that. So it's an audience segmentation that told you that you require this. So, the best part before I open for everybody is the best part of today's time is that it looks like that it is a very materialistic world, but it is the best time to be inwards. Because the moment you are grounded and then you explore the world, there's so much of possibility, there's so much of availability in the world today that all you have to do is become conscious and then you can choose whatever. But what we are choosing to live is on the other side. That we are living so unconsciously that everything becomes a choice, which leads us and ends up in confusion. So if I know, so the way to go in the online world is to know what I'm looking for and then find multiple options for it. What we do is we enter without knowing what we want. So then we end up wanting everything and getting nothing. So really making the equation the other way around that I know. So I know today that okay, I'm seeking entertainment, so I'll watch. Like how earlier time there used to be TV, no? You could choose like which channel. So you want to watch a movie channel or a music channel or a TV show channel. So there was still entertainment, there was still choice. Now in a way it's like you can watch anything and everything, so then you end up like a hosh posh in that sense. So the system is not as evolved as we think it is, that yes, I can take everything. So that is why self work now is a necessity or a way of life so that you can organize your life in a better manner. It's like if I'm going on trekking, I have to be equipped. So now when I'm entering the world of today as it stands, I need to have that equipments ready, which essentially is holding on to myself. So those are just few things if we remember, and then we can actually enjoy the process because the beauty of multiplicity is that it offers us a choice. It's just that the choice should be conscious. That's all. But we should recognize that and grateful for the choices we have. But what in us makes the choices determines our experience and our attitude. So yeah, I think that is what I have. So I'm sure all of us have certain experiences. So you all have things to add. It's just not just because my name was there, I'm talking. Everybody can talk equally because all of us are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think I'll pause and see what all of you have to offer. And I recognize symbolically stopping is muting yourself.
And as you've always been emphasizing, experience is far more important than knowledge. So, as you said, in this group, all those in the audience have plenty of experience. And therefore, that in fact is more important than knowledge. And I'm sure they can all contribute in some way to this discussion.
I'd like to share something. Can I?
Sure, please.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Aditi. Uh, you've you opened up so many threads uh, that assimilating all of them will take a lot of time. What I understood was that from what you are trying to say is art of reflection, art of common sense is paramount in content creation, in content consumption, right? And so nicely you covered content versus parts of being and how, yeah, and uh, you know, so I just got thinking there was a time boredom and loneliness are not new, right? It's as old as humanity. So Dr. Bijlani, you know, he can throw so much more light that, when he was young, there was no mobile. How were people handling boredom and loneliness then? And why is it today that just because of a presence of mobile, we have started latching on to mobile? If we didn't have mobile today, probably we would have other strategies because there would be other technologies. Uh, there's one research which is my favorite, and I always talk about it. That's on dopamine by a scientist in Netherlands. And so addiction is not uh, it's not evolutionary. It is designed. And why is it designed? Most of the content today is based on user experience and user interface. And these interfaces are being designed by $1 million paid psychologists, neuroscientists sitting in all the companies across social media. And they know what hooks people on. If I'm a centered person, if I'm Lord Buddha, I can see mobile and I would never get addicted. But I'm not. And that's the reason why I'm going to mobile. So, what this research said was uh, we do our daily activities, we read a book, we eat a chocolate. So, our baseline figure is 40. Which units I don't remember of dopamine in our brain. The moment you eat a chocolate, it goes to 80. The moment you read a book, it goes to 90. Some adventure activity, 100. Sex, 80. Like that, different activities lead to different kind of dopamine levels. But the dopamine level with content consumption on internet goes to 10,000 units. Okay, there's no problem in that. But dopamine follows the function of homeostasis in our brains, which means jitna upar jayega, utna niche aayega, right? So I was thinking, oh, but do I experience it in my life? So I thought, okay, when I have a chocolate, right? I like dark chocolate. So I have a chocolate with some sweet in it. And then I get a rush, right? And after 30 seconds, I go for another chocolate and I want to eat it. Why do I want to eat it again? That is because of this homeostasis. It goes up, now it goes down. So the moment it goes down below the baseline, there is a loss function. And that loss function leads my hand to the chocolate bar. But if I wait for 30 or 40 seconds more, I don't know how many of you have experienced. I have experienced. And after reading this, after going through this research, I waited for a minute and then my desire to have that chocolate vanished. And I was wondering, how is that possible? Because that homeostasis comes back to its normal baseline of 40. I said, great. So I thought knowledge of knowledge is power. So the only solution is one is common sense, and the other is to really get away from the mobile phones. And this research is very clear 28 days in nature, and you'll be de addicted. Anything, whether it is substance abuse, mobile abuse, any kind of abuse. Yeah, I just wanted to share this. That's all. And
Thank you.
Dr. Bijlani, if you could please tell what was the boredom and loneliness tackling strategy when mobiles were not there?
Well, I can only share a general sort of experience because, in fact, I grew up as I was myself growing up as a child, I did not understand the term boredom because I was never bored. But all the same, uh, I heard this term quite often. And in situations of boredom, what people did was to try and find some sort of entertainment. Suppose they were standing in a queue and got bored, they would start talking to each other. If they're sitting in a waiting room and they felt bored, they would pick up some magazines, even if it was out of date, or the newspaper, even if they had read quite a bit in the morning, they would say, well, this newspaper is different, let me see what this one is saying. So that is how they killed boredom. But one function which I think boredom ended up serving was that at least it gave us some time when we were not doing much. And that we are realizing more and more that is also an important need. We don't have to be doing something all the time. Our mind doesn't have to be very active all the time. Those periods when we are apparently not thinking much and letting mind just be in an idling state are the time when we process what we have, we can filter what we have, we can make choices about what type of impressions we'll consume in future, and that is the time when we also come up with all the creative impulses. So boredom has a function in life, so-called boredom.
Yes, so you're right. Now we have outsourced creativity to AI. So I think one more task less for the humankind. It appears so. And regarding this, regarding this shoot up in dopamine with content creation, was that when it goes down, the loss function is so high that it is difficult for most of us to get out of WhatsApp, Google News, or Facebook, Instagram. It is so difficult. But if I'm addicted to reading a book, I can very well get out of that addiction. But the addiction of mobile is so high because of this loss function. And one last point I'll also make. Uh, the brain gets used to so much of excess dopamine that it shifts its baseline below 40 to around 20. And now, when you are not on mobile, you are at a baseline of 20. That's that state of depression. And therefore, people who are not using mobiles are depressed. They're not normal. They're sad and they just don't know what to do. They're lost because their baseline has gone down. And the only way to get this baseline back to normal is to connect with nature and throw the mobiles away if you can, or restrict mobile. So most of you would be having grandchildren or children. I'm sure you must be having. Even you yourself must be feeling this problem. Okay, done.
I would like to speak something, share. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishal and Sir, and of course, Aditi. It is so wonderful to be in the same platform. And as you spoke, so many things we could relate to. And especially the last part where Sir also has talked of boredom and Vishal has asked Sir. Yes, I remember I grew up in a small town and I was very close to nature, fortunately. And though we were a very nuclear family, there was always music and a lot of reading and literature in that. So, yes, of course, growing up, boredom, the state of boredom would be there. There would be time when we were not able to go out during the vacations also, 2 months of straight vacations, and we did not, but we never got bored. So today, when I pick up a mobile and when I see so much of addiction to the mobile, and I personally am a very technologically challenged person. टेक्नोलॉजी देखते ही थोड़ा घबराहट होता है, and I'm very averse to really getting into technology. And so I call mobile the menace, like Dennis the Menace, mobile the menace. So I basically try to, I don't find it a problem to keep away from the mobile actually. And even if I am looking at the mobile or YouTube or the internet, or there is an urge, it is always, I think it is stemmed from certain habits and certain disciplines that got inculcated in me as a child and which have stayed on. And today, when I see in the schools, being an educationist, when I see in the schools, what is happening is that there is always a disconnect between what the child is allowed to do, has the freedom to do, and what is expected of him and what is really thopoed on him, like literally, put on him. You attend school, you go to so much of content is being pushed on these poor children these days. School pura karo, school mein sports hota hai, fine. If the school is a happy experience, good. Then after school, you go for abacus, then you go for some other training, some other mental maths class or something else. So where is the time being given to these poor children also? So my heart goes out to them. And as an educationist, I feel that if we have these kind of platforms of, where the, even in the schools or at home or in certain circles, if we are able to bring in this kind of an element of discussion. And yes, I very much liked your point of accountability to consumption. This is very important. And if we can teach our children this, I think it will be wonderful. And thank you so much.
In fact, that reminds me that mobile should never be used as an entertainment. If I use mobile to read the life divine, it is fine. I'll not get addicted. But the moment I use it as entertainment, that is the time children and elders also get into problem.
And yes, I think mobile has, I think basically it is Google and all these things which have become very intrusive. The moment I speak something and the phone is very near, the next time I open my phone, I see ads which are just picking up. It's actually scary. It's picking up words that are being spoken, and those kind of ads and those kind of topics are being flashed even on the phone. So it's become very intrusive. So yes, we have to use it very consciously. Of course, it is a very big advantage. Phone
Yes.
has also given us a lot of connectivity. Today, if my daughter is somewhere out and phone is the only connectivity I would have with her. So yes, it's a great utility thing, and one has to use it very consciously, I think.
True.
Keep away consciously, use it consciously.
Smartphone. Who's smart? The phone or the person using it?
True.
I just wanted to add one thing while I was listening to all of you. I even mentioned it earlier. This is more of an interesting exploration that more the darkness, more the quest for light. And that is why somehow in these discussions, if we are not aware, we end up categorizing technology, categorizing content as something, not good. Or I would not even use the word the opposite of good, but somehow it's damaging us or something like that. But if you look at the other side, the beauty of it is that if I know that, see, I'm being heard, or like you said about the ads and all of those things come if I'm talking, it's more so giving me a responsibility and a choice to think right, to be right, to be more aware. So the more I know that the darkness lies outside, the more I will try to be that light. So it's easier to become a better version of who you are, become more conscious, become all of those things, so that what is offered, I can pick and choose and just leave the rest. But somehow, because that task is difficult, we knowingly or unknowingly move in a direction that we try and see that, okay, that is an issue. Like just one thing, because since morning I was having few sessions and repeatedly it came that ego is the helper, ego is the bar, like that famous thing which Shobinda speaks about it. I think content, same thing, we can use it for the content also if we can have that liberty. That content is the helper, content is the bar. It's just that what is the level of my consciousness into it. So that is maybe I think I would like to offer an end and see if anybody has something to say. Or maybe close. Arunima.
Hi, I would like to say something if you can hear me.
Sure, yes.
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me, Arunima?
Yes, Nitya, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay,
we can
all
hear
right,
you.
all right. All right, thank you so much for the session. Speaking of technology, I logged in when I was in the metro, and so Zoom automatically, stopped any video or stopped the microphone, and it said that I am in safe driving mode, although I was not driving, I was just in the public transport. So I do find technology quite interesting. There are like so many benefits that you can get out of it. At the same time, I am a product of my time, and I am also probably the last generation which has seen a pre-internet time. So I know what an analog life can look like. And this is something that this is a favorite topic of mine. There's a whole digital addiction sort of thing, because this is so personal to me. I have struggled with this, and especially I think coming from the industry that I did, from the ad industry, where we are responsible for creating that kind of content. So it all the more creates a different kind of ethical challenge, or what kind of content you want to create. But at the same time, I think on a personal level, uh, this has been a huge challenge for me. It's so tempting to fall for the easy content, the easy entertainment, the easy way of, relaxing at the end of the day. Um, at the same time, I have experimented with it. I've experimented how to de-addict myself. I joined in a little late, Aditi, so I don't know. I missed the first 15 minutes. I don't know if you mentioned Cal Newport, the author who's written the book Digital Minimalism, and a wonderful author. I really like his books. And while I was reading the book, I did like a 30-day fasting, what Dr. Ramesh calls fasting. And I think I've been on, in all those stages, the eating of the healthy food, the fasting phase of it, and, then rejecting the healthy and going to the junk food. I've done all of that. Um, so I think one of the lessons that I have personally learned is, if I don't have a life, like if things are not going on in my life, if I don't have an analog life, I automatically get drawn to the easy junk content. Um, so if I do something, if there's something I do offline, if there are things I do, if I write poetry, if I'm reading a book, or a way where I am enjoying my humanness, apart from just simply sitting and not doing anything, allowing yourself to get bored. Not just that, yeah, that's one part of it, but also being the creator, creating something in your life. If I'm doing that, uh, online doesn't tempt me that much, you know. So I have tried to replace some of the things, some of the times when I usually choose to, pick up my phone and just scroll through Instagram. I try to do something in my real life, in my offline life, and that helps. And I think one of the points you mentioned is like, is this creating joy, or why am I watching this? Right. So it's interesting that I have recently put a wallpaper on my phone, which says, it's a black screen with a text on it which says, read a book instead. Okay, so every time I pick up my phone, it says read a book instead. So it's interesting. It's just a fun way of. I don't know how long it's going to work for, but it's interesting. Uh, and yeah, so I think the last few times, every time I picked up my phone to go on YouTube and watch some junk content, and if there is awareness, I put it down again, and I just pick up a journal and I write, what am I feeling and why am I distracting myself? Like, what is the emotion I'm distracting myself from? What is it that I'm not willing or ready to feel? So it helps. I think just writing it out, and it helps because, it's like there's a part of you, in the parts work psychology, like there's a part of you which wants to be heard, and you're just covering it up by, uh, you know, uh, distraction. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, that I am, that's what I do. I get addicted, and then half the time I'm trying to de-addict myself. So it's a great journey for me, and this is, I think, one of my favorite topics. And I had to join this meeting for this. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Participants, if anyone else wants to share something or ask something, please go ahead.
I'll just share my little experience that I've had. I think we are such slave to our habits. And if we just reflect upon our, right from the time we get up to the time we go to bed during the day, we just one day sit and write down what all we are doing throughout the day. Everything. I get up, I take my tablet. I get up, I look out at the sun, I do a namaskar. I get up, which foot goes down. I get up, I go to the washroom. I come out, I do, I literally write down. And then which habit is positive, which habit is negative, and which is neutral, something that we have to do. So it's also mentioned in one of the books, Atomic Habits. So if you just reflect on all the habits, and then we will see which are the bad ones, and then if you want to replace them or if you want to reduce them, and then with what to replace it with. I mean, it's like a whole reflection. It takes a while, but then you are able to yourself bring those changes in yourself if you're really self-motivated enough. And especially the first hour of the day, I encourage, because that helped me. The first hour, so I just don't look at the phone. I get up at 5:30 till 7 a.m. Everybody in my family and friends know her phone will not be on. And then that last 1 hour before I'm going to sleep, my phone is away from me or off, or I'm in some room lying, and I will not look at it. So, I mean, it has taken a while to get into that practice, but only after realizing that how it's important for me that I started making those choices. So it's nice to reflect on throughout the day, I think, and you have given me a lot of new words and things, a way to express it, but in a very simple way is what I feel, that we are such slaves and we should see whether we want to remain a slave or we want to come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, PTD. Dr. Bijlani, sir, any closing comments from you?
I'm happy that so many shared their personal experiences. I'll share only one personal experience. I'm a member of a WhatsApp group from where I get at least 30 to 40 messages every day. So that in a way is a training for how to filter quickly what you really want to see and ignore the rest. So it becomes sort of, in a way, it can be a challenge as well as a training. And then what I do, if not every day, at least every alternate day, I make use of an option which I discovered because of that WhatsApp group. There's an option called clear chat. So I can clear all the chat in that group every alternate day, if not every day. So it starts all over afresh. So whatever was ignored remains ignored forever because I can't see it anymore. So this was personal experience. Now I'll go to more general things. What Aditi talked about, the transition from the play-based childhood to phone-based childhood. This happened, around the 1980s when somehow in the Western countries, and whatever happens in the Western countries happens to some extent the in certain sections of the society, also in India. Parents became more and more protective of the child, and they thought that if the child goes and plays outside unsupervised, there's a great risk of the child getting kidnapped or being touched by sex offenders, and therefore they started restricting the movement of the child, and would try to supervise all types of play if at all it was possible. Unsupervised play was disfavored, and this was also the time when the television came. So that became a substitute. So that marked a sort of a shift. And after that, of course, this trend has continued. Children go and play less and less outside and spend more and more time with the smartphone. Now, this is something which seems natural because the children need something as a diversion, as entertainment. But then the companies which have come up with these all the material that we have on the smartphones these days, they in fact have made a conscious effort to target children for a variety of reasons which we can understand. Because firstly, they are the future, and therefore, if you can catch them young, then you have a good market for many decades to come. But apart from that, it's also because the children have a relatively low willpower, less of discriminating ability, and for children, it's very important to fit in. So whatever the rest of the children their age group are doing, they would like to do that because this is something which has always been there, and this has, if anything, got accentuated. This peer pressure to try and fit in, not to feel left out, and therefore the child takes to it quickly because everybody else is doing it. Then, further to that, they added possibility of the person posting material about himself or herself, and then seeing that how many people have seen what I have written, how many people have commented on it, how many people have liked it. So for that, the child has a tendency to go back to the same thing again and again. And then from how to take that child from there to something else which is tempting, that also is designed. So, as Vishal said, that they have employed people who are experts at this, who come up with more and more ideas on how to hook the child to it. And basically, what they're doing is they're making the child addicted to the dopamine rush. There's a spike, makes the child feel good. The spike goes down, as Vishal said, the child doesn't feel good. But to get another spike is so easy. And that is what addiction is actually about. And it's no less harmful than addiction to tobacco or alcohol, because those are at least more difficult to get. This is much easier, seems to cost virtually nothing. And restrictions, whatever are there, are half hearted. There is an age limit below which one can't open, for example, an Instagram account. But then there is no need to provide any proof of age. The 11-year-old child can say, I'm 14, and open an account. Nobody checks it. So it means that this leniency seems to be inbuilt. Nobody is bothered. Then they don't care if that is happening. They want more and more people to get addicted, and the sooner the better. Now, as a result of this, another thing that has happened is that the child is also getting negative comments, disapproval, is getting bullied. Now, this was always there among the youngsters, and for them, just as approval was, or to fit in, was cherished, any type of bullying was a nightmare. Now, that nightmare has multiplied enormously. And the result is, whether it is the result of not getting enough of a dopamine rush because of some restrictions which might be imposed on the child by the parents or the school, or whether it is because the child is being bullied, the children going into depression. The children are developing all types of behavioral disorders, learning disabilities, and childhood suicides among adolescents. All these things have been traced, in fact, to quite some extent to the impact of the social media. So the impact of all this is enormous. But then, since a lot of people are making money out of it, somehow the checks and balances are inadequate. And also the technology itself is at a level where it's more and more difficult to control it. Now, since our group is primarily about spiritual development, let's see what impact it has on the spiritual development of the individual. The overall impact seems to be that it is affecting the spiritual development of children adversely. And that is primarily because for spiritual development, you need some time when the mind is idling. You need to be free so that you can connect with your deeper self. You can go within. There is no time for that. As the mother has said in one of the passages, that you have to be open. And to be open, you have to make way for the divine. And if you do not let that happen, if you're so full up and there's no room for the divine, then you can't be open. Of course, there are many ways in which we obstruct our opening by either cramming ourselves with too many ideas, or sometimes with ideas which are in the form of doubts and questions which become obstacles. But here, there is no room left. And that is one thing which is affecting the spiritual development of children adversely. But then what can we do about it? What we can do about it is that we can't prevent the type of content that is being added at an enormous pace with great finesse and subtlety, in a way that it is designed to capture the youth, and we can do nothing about it. But all the same, what we can do is to increase the amount of positive content. We can't reduce the negative content, but we can increase the positive content, and we can keep adding to it so that it will not get drowned in the trash to the extent that it is now happening. And if the children who have that sort of an opening discover this sort of content, Fortunately, the algorithms that are there in the uh, social media, the companies which have designed the software, will make sure that those children will keep seeing more and more of that type of content. So that itself will ensure that. And therefore, what we have to do is just increase this type of content, at least hope that there will be children who will be more open to this. And in general, children are more open than adults. And once they have discovered it, these very algorithms, which are designed to provide the type of material that the child is wanting to see, will ensure that the child will see more and more that type of content. So, with that, I'll stop here and leave it to Aditi if she has any last word.
It's just that all of us are trying in our own way to become more conscious, and we wish all of us become more and more conscious so our consumption becomes conscious. That's all I would like to share. So thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you, Aditi.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank-
much, Aditi, for this deeply insightful session. And the entire discussion really felt practically helpful for everyone. And let me quickly inform that the recording of today's session and all Yes Talks are published on our YouTube channel, Yes Spirituality. Participants, thank you so much for being with us today. Let us close today's session with a moment of peaceful silence. Namaste.